If you've ever looked at an outfit and felt that it just doesn't feel right, you are probably wearing the wrong contrast. Contrast is maybe the most important element when you're creating an outfit. Your contrast is how different your features are from each other, and in an outfit, this can affect the kinds of patterns, colors, and shapes you should wear. In this video, I'm gonna break down how to find your contrast in terms of your color, your body type, and your face type, and what to do if your contrast is different in different areas. My name is Ellie-Jean, I'm a style consultant, and on this channel, we find our style by finding ourselves. What actually is contrast in an outfit? Let's start with high contrast. For high contrast, you would have two or more colors in one outfit. These colors are usually bright or clear, which means they don't have any brown or gray or muddiness to those shades. It's usually a pairing of very light and very dark colors. For example, black and white would be high contrast. And it often involves highly separated patterns such as stripes and polka dots, or even chevron, zigzags. Low contrast is when you have fewer colors in one outfit. They're usually soft colors, so they're infused with gray or brown. For example, pastel blue with pastel pink would be low contrast. Low contrast often involves either plain fabric, so no pattern, or kind of muddied patterns, so very small floral patterns, watercolor, that kind of thing. Essentially, small details which blur together. And medium contrast would be somewhere in the middle. Today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online platform for creatives with thousands of classes. We have been renovating our home since September when we bought it, and the house is nearly finished structurally, so I'm getting to a point where I am getting quite excited about decor and designing. I was surprised that despite everything I know about clothing, I felt I should know a lot about pattern, color, this kind of thing, but interior design is still somewhat of a mystery to me. So for my summer project, I am taking this course on interior design on Skillshare to learn about design theory and expand my knowledge on different elements of design. I have already learned so much and I cannot wait to sink my teeth into this. There are also loads of classes on color theory, styling, closet organization, so if you love my channel, there will definitely be things to get stuck into. The first 500 people who click the link in my description will get a free trial on Skillshare, so make sure to check that out. Let's start with color. This is what we typically think of when we think of contrast. Contrast in your coloring is the difference between your hair, skin, eyes, and lips. Now, a trick lots of people use to get started is they get a picture of themselves and they turn it black and white, and then you can see more clearly without all the different color involved, the difference between your features. So if you have what appears like black hair on the photo and say white skin, that's probably high contrast. Whereas if all the colors look kind of the same and all the shades are very similar, you possibly have low contrast. High contrast is usually a mix of different combinations. You might have very dark hair with light skin and light eyes. You might have very dark hair, very light skin, and very dark eyes. Maybe very dark eyes with very light skin and very light hair, but this is quite uncommon. You'll probably also suit high contrast if you're bright. For example, if you had very bright red hair, light skin, and green eyes, even though none of that is dark and technically they all might be fairly similar shades, you're still probably going to suit high contrast. Another example of this is if you had very dark skin, very dark hair, and very dark eyes. For example, someone with similar colouring to Lupita Nyong'o. You might argue that this is high contrast because you have the very dark skin next to very light whites of your eyes, but also having so many bright features is also a sign that high contrast might be for you. In terms of colour seasons, the seasons which suit high contrast colours are bright spring, bright winter, and true spring. Low contrast is the opposite, it's when you have very little difference between your features. For example, if you had very light hair, very light skin, and very light eyes, this is low contrast. If you had medium hair, medium skin, and medium eyes, or light hair, medium skin, light eyes, people with low contrast tend to be soft. And the seasons which are usually light contrast include light spring, light summer, soft summer, and soft autumn. You can also find true summers and true autumns who have low contrast. Medium contrast is obviously somewhere in the middle of all of that. For example, if you had medium to dark hair, light skin, and medium to dark eyes, dark hair, medium skin, and dark eyes. And typically the seasons we see with medium contrast include dark winter and dark autumn, true summer and true autumn, and sometimes true spring and true winter, although they lean between medium and high contrast. Now, in terms of body type, high contrast in body types is when you have contrasting features, and typically we're talking about gamees, so flamboyant and soft gamine. They are petite with a squarish bone structure, so they inherently have contrast between being small and sharp, which are different ends of yin and yang. If all of that makes no sense to you, I really recommend checking out this video on the Kiwi body types. But essentially, gamines have a mix of soft and sharp features. In a soft gamine case, they have slightly squarish bone structure, so they have some sharpness, they are petite, and they have some softness in the chest and maybe hips. And this means they suit contrast in their clothing. So everything we talked about before, such as staccato patterns, as Kibby would call them, or like these very distinctive patterns, such as stripes, polka dots. They suit broken lines, which again is kind of a part of contrast, so having a crop top in black and a little white A-line skirt. So mixing light and dark colours, and also lots of layers, as this adds opportunity for detail and more contrast. When we talk about low contrast in body types, we typically think of the classic types, so dramatic classic and soft classic. Their features are balanced and moderate. They're neither particularly long, nor small, not straight, nor rounded. They're very in the middle, and this means they have no distinctive features, so they suit clothing which has no distinctive markings, so usually plain fabrics or very low contrast patterns, as well as minimal detail and minimal layers. But what about the other body types? Pure dramatics tend to go either way. Either they suit really low contrast, so an unbroken line to echo their long vertical line with just plain fabrics. They also can suit, though, really high contrast, such as zigzags, stripes, as long as they're geometric patterns. Soft dramatics, again, unbroken lines, and typically I think soft dramatics look good in high contrast. So for example, a really bright, large floral pattern, for instance. Flamboyant and soft naturals I think look best in low to medium contrast because they want to create flow. Theatrical romantics I think look good in kind of all contrast levels, and romantics look best in low contrast. Everything I've just spoke about in terms of body type can be applied to facial features as well. So high contrast in your facial features is when you have a mix of sharp and soft facial features. For example, having a square jawline but a short face with large round eyes, a straight nose and round lips. You've got a mix of all different kinds of influences. Gamines are typically high contrast. They tend to have short, sharp and soft features, so they suit lots of pattern, detail. Classic faces, low contrast for the same reasons as with the body type. They have no distinctive features, so the things they wear near their face also look best when they're not very distinctive, so they're very subtle. Now, dramatic faces suit high contrast. Even though they have all sharp features, they have a lot of distinctive features, and these are echoed with bold patterns. Kind of in the same way as if you're bright, you suit high contrast, even though you don't necessarily have high contrast in your features. Naturals, I would say low to medium contrast. Ingenues are definitely low contrast, they suit softness. Romantics, I would say low to medium contrast. And ethereals also suit low contrast best. So typically, I think we can say that most people suit low contrast. What if you have high contrast colors, low contrast body type, medium contrast face type, for instance? How do you choose? How do you decide what kind of contrast you're going to wear? First of all, I would check out my video on how to combine different style systems. In this video, I teach you my focus, follow, refine methods, and you can apply everything in that video to the contrast concept. But typically when we're talking about contrast, I would say we're talking about color first and foremost. I think color is not something that should ever be ignored or pushed to the side. When we take someone in, the first thing we're going to notice is color and that kind of harmony. So for me, color is always at the top of my list in my style toolbox of things that I personally care about. But another example would be, for instance, a light summer with a soft gamine body type. In this instance, I wouldn't necessarily recommend wearing black and white, but you might choose the lightest and darkest of your color seasons to wear together. For example, wearing a very light off-white with a kind of deep raspberry pink. This will still look harmonious on you, even though it slightly breaks the rules of your season, which prefers low contrast in general. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. If you enjoyed, you should definitely check out my community, Style Scholars. When you join the community for free, you get a worksheet in your email, which you can do alongside this video, as well as worksheets for my last several videos, or become a paid member to listen to the extended Q&A of this video. In doing so, you support this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.